Boom. What's up, my non-degenerative degens? I'm here to talk about soy devs. What are soy devs? So there's like a culture inside of the development world, software engineering community, coders, programmers, whatever, right? So mostly if you think of a quote-unquote programmer, you probably automatically assume someone that's inside of their mother's basement. They probably have Cheeto dust all over them. They probably are kind of like what you would consider to be socially awkward, maybe like timid and quiet. I'm sure that rings a bell to some of you guys out there. Believe it or not all of us are like that. Even though, as far as like historically, that's usually how it goes, right? Most of the people that gravitate towards doing that as a field of work or a hobby are usually on the upper spectrum of intellect, right? They're usually very intellectual people. And what coincides with people who have high IQs is usually inability to be sociable, right? But that doesn't always have to be the case, right? I mean, there's some people that exist out there that have a high IQ and also aren't like extremely socially awkward, right? And you know, not everyone that is a programmer and not everyone that chooses that as a hobby or like a field of work, not everyone that does that necessarily has an incredibly high IQ, but just most people happen to do that, happen to be high IQ individuals. Why is that? Well, I mean, I don't really have an exact reason, but usually when you look at the progression of people that get into coding, they usually start from like an earlier age tinkering with computers, right? And those usually tend to be the kids that are highly gravitated towards video games, and they just happen to like video games a lot. One thing led to another. Eventually they had to like change files on some sort of game and touch code for a little bit to like do something to their game, right? And then one thing led to the next, and next thing you know, they're going to their first job as a programmer. And if you guys look back at when you were kids and maybe grade school or middle school or high school, the people who liked video games sometimes were like the awkward kids, right? And that was me. I was one of those kids that liked video games. However, one thing that I have non-common with the rest of those people is that I was never extremely awkward, right? I actually like enjoyed the company of other people sometimes, probably less than most people, but I would venture to say that compared to most people inside of this community, inside of this field of work or hobby, I'm a little bit different than. I probably a little bit more socially inclined than most of them. And what is another thing that I don't have in common with a lot of these people is my external shell, my look, I guess you could say, my physique. I definitely don't look like your average programmer, right? Not trying to like blow smoke up my butt or anything, but I definitely have the body of someone who is not a programmer. If you don't believe me, go to @EatLiftProgram on Instagram. You can go see for yourself and make your own decision. But anyway, the point of this is soy devs. I wouldn't consider myself to be a soy dev, all right? And look, if you're that kind of person and you're what some people would label as soy, there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong with being different. There's nothing wrong with being socially awkward a little bit. There's nothing wrong with wanting to keep to yourself. But the problem I've experienced in my, let's say, I don't know, when did I start doing this seriously? Since about 2011, so about a decade. The problem that I've experienced most with this is that people who I've had to interact with back in college, in the computer science department, or in different jobs, is that people will automatically discriminate against me or make assumptions towards me based off of my external appearance, which is a little unfair if you think about it, because from my observation, usually these people, the people that are doing this, are are usually the first ones to cry out and try to cancel somebody when someone else makes any sort of judgment upon anyone else's externals. And I think you guys know what I mean. But some people who are relatively normal, like me, we have a term for these kind of people. We call them soy devs. Yes, it is a pejorative, and you know, that's not always nice to do either, but at least I'm not treating them differently, or treating you, if you're watching, differently to your face. So I would never do that, especially in a professional context, because in my opinion, as long as you can get the job done and you can do something, quite frankly, I don't care what your political beliefs are. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you do when you're not contributing to something together with me. As long as you can do what you need to do, to me, that's all that matters, okay? Why does this matter to me? Truth be told, it doesn't matter to me, except for sometimes it kind of bruises my ego that people would just automatically look at me and assume that I'm dumb. Because God forbid, you know, someone go exercise at the gym and have somewhat of a social life, but also be a software engineer and have a somewhat high IQ. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own ass here, but you know, I'm not the smartest person in the whole world. Maybe I am, don't tell anybody, shh. But it's shitty for me and people like me, because when you are in this field, if you're dealing with people like that, be prepared to deal with a lot of discretion, okay? There's going to be guys, especially if you're a male, there's going to be guys out there who, you know, take pride in the fact that they're a software engineer, and they think that they're the most elite person on the whole planet, and they think that they're the most highly intellectual being. They're an omnipotent being in the universe, and anyone who doesn't code is beneath them. And so when you run into people like that, they're going to try to pick you apart for everything that you're worth. And deep down inside, they're going to hate you because you can also do the same thing as them, except, you know, you don't appear the same way that they appear. You don't look like them, and you don't act like them. And, you know, what I mean by that is maybe you're not extremely socially awkward. Maybe you're not extremely unfit and unactive, and maybe you take care of yourself. And they're gonna dislike you and be envious of you because of that. And everyone knows what happens after that. I mean, that can lead to a whole plethora of different things, right? I mean, they can pit you, like pit other people against you at work. They can dislike you and do things behind your back. You can get rejected from jobs during the interview process, even if you're fully capable of doing all the work that they need you to do, and you have a fully stacked resume which fits 100% of the criteria of the things that they're looking for. If the person that's going to be above you is one of these kind of people, they're not going to want you around, because they're going to be threatened by you. As cheesy as that is to say, it's true. Or if you were like me and you were that kid in the computer science department that literally didn't fit in with anybody, and you stuck out like a sore thumb, the kids aren't going to want to help you with anything. They're not going to want to talk to you. They're not going to want to socialize with you. So be prepared for that, okay? And some of these people are just flat out not going to like you, even if they have no good reason to, even if you're 100% respectable towards them, even if you do everything you're supposed to do. They're just not going to like you because you're different, okay? Just accept it. That's the way the world is, all right? Accept it. Separate yourself from the mob. Don't be concerned about what the peanut gallery is saying or thinking or doing about you, okay? And move on. And just realize, if you are someone like me, you know, you've probably dealt with this in more areas in your life than just this. You know, I don't even feel a connection with just regular people, right? So a lot of people that aren't like soy devs, I can't even feel like I have a connection with them on an intellectual level, because I feel like most people can't go past first or second gear in their thinking processes. So, you know, I'm kind of an outcast in the real world, and I'm an outcast amongst programmers too, right? So what should you do? Just realize that just because, you know, you might go to the gym or exercise, and that you might enjoy yourself on a timeout from occasion to occasion, it doesn't mean that you're not as smart or as capable as other people who do the exact same thing that you do day in and day out. And make a pledge to yourself to not be a part of that type of community, to not be a person like that. Make a pledge to be anti-soy dev, to stay away from soy dev culture, and take solace in the fact that since you are probably a more sociable and likable person, and that maybe you have higher ambitions in life than most, that when you go home and when you're finished doing whatever it is that requires you to interact with these type of people, that you're going to be better than them at the end of the day. You're going to eventually bring yourself to a higher position in anything in life, just because you're a more sociable and likable person. And that they're probably going to end up being a wage cuck, stuck independent off of the payment of some corporation that really doesn't give a damn about them. And they're going to go home to their busted Pillsbury biscuit girlfriend or their right or left hand and sulk in a video game session. If you resonated with anything that I said, like, comment, subscribe if you're an anti-soy dev. If you're part of the anti-soy dev crew, eatliftprogram.com, developerdirection.com if you want to join a community of like-minded individuals who aren't soy devs, are intellectual, and just get the job done without trying to get soy milk all over everything. Or just slide into my DMs on Instagram at eatliftprogram. You know what? If you're a soy dev, just go ahead and slide into my DMs and come be mean to me. That'll be fun. I could probably have a good time picking you apart too. Later.